Shalom, shalom, boker tov, shavua tov. It is very apt that I am here on the week we just had Mevarchim HaChodesh on Shabbat, for Chodesh Adar, the month of miracles, as my talk today is going to focus, as Leonard just mentioned, missiles to miracles, what now? I believe you're going to hear today a perspective that those of you who already follow me and listen to me at the Pulse of Israel, you've heard some of these messages before. Those who are not yet following me and getting this belief-based, Torah-based, Torah Eretz Yisrael daily understanding of what's happening to the Jewish people and our Jewish homeland today, you're more than invited right now or after the talk to go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe so you too can get this deeper emunah-based understanding on a daily basis. And thank you to the sponsors who brought me here and to everyone involved in organizing today's event. It is really a pleasure to be here. So for those of you not familiar with me, let me very quickly give a short introduction, and then we'll go into the talk. Born in New York City, I was a bookworm. I was blessed to grow up in a generation where there were no screens. Because if I had been born in today's day and age, I'm ADD, I would have definitely been addicted to screens and not read any books. Instead, when I was bored, I used to just go to the bookshelf and pick out books. And I loved history books. Loved history books. I tell my kids, now grown up, 3 of them just got married within the past 2 years during the war, 2 of them soldiers in the war. Tell them history is so important. Jewish history, Torah, biblical history, Holocaust history, all history. It's so important to understand who we are as a people, know where we're going. And as a kid, I wasn't just reading about, I loved the Tanakh stories, I loved the biblical stories, Jewish history, Holocaust history, American history, Civil War history, literally. Books on George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, the slave trade, everything. Civil War. But it's because of my passion for reading and learning history that already, as a 13, 14-year-old boy growing up in Manhattan, I understood how blessed I was to be a Jewish child growing up in a generation where the Jewish people once again were sovereign back in our ancestral homeland with our own army to defend ourselves after 2,000 years of continuous exile and persecution, and exile and persecution, and exile and persecution. And already as a 13, 14-year-old boy in New York City, my dream was to make Aliyah and to take part in the blessing of being a Jew today and serving the Israeli army, to be able to protect our people, a privilege that 2,000 plus years of our ancestors did not have. And it's because of that even though I'm way past the age of having to serve in the IDF, but I'm continuing to serve, just finished my 5th call of duty of Miluim in this war. Not everyone in my family is clapping. My mother's like, aren't you too old? Why do they still watch you? Stay home. And I'm like, Ima, you know me. To me, it's a privilege. It's not mandatory. So long as I get added value to my unit, I'm continuing as long as I can. Right? My son, my oldest, was just called up for his 3rd stage of Miluim. He's just been sent out to Gaza. My number 2, he was basically in the whole war in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria. And with all of the challenges, with all of the stress, anxiety, we're just so blessed to be able to live in a generation that we're able to finally defend ourselves and live in our homeland like we're supposed to. So that's me as a child. Age of 16, thank God, my parents decided to make Aliyah. A number of you have come up to me and given me so much pride, and I'm choking up right now, because your children were students of my father back in New York City. He was the principal of Rabbi Riskin's High School, Masifta or Torah, originally in Riverdale, New York, then moved to Queens. And my father is one of the best educators on earth, so your children were blessed beyond to have had him. And my father at the time was very much sought out as a Jewish educator, as a principal for Jewish high schools around America. There were some communities like throwing money at him to be able to, for him to come over and move the family. Memphis, Los Angeles, all different places wanted him. And I was such a Zionist, value-based teenager at the age of 16 that basically I said to my parents, if you move to Sin City, that's what I called Los Angeles at the time, that was bad enough, not Las Vegas, then I'm making Aliyah without you. And my parents basically said, all right, it looks like we're going to Israel. So at the age of 16, picked up, we were living in Baltimore at the time, and moved to Israel. After I finished yeshiva, I went to Hesder Yeshiva, served in the army, in Golani, infantry brigade, met my wife. She was in the middle of graduate school in New York. So like, relationships, you have to make compromises. So the first compromise was she was obviously going to make Aliyah, come to Israel with me, but she wanted to be near her family in New York first. So we started off our first 5 years of marriage, 5-year plan was to live in New York. She finished her studies. I went to my bachelor's and master's living in New York, and as soon as possible, we flew right back to Israel, and that was March 2002. Talking about March 2002, this will lead into the talk, but we were in New York for 9/11. I met some of you are New Yorkers who've moved down south since. I was working in a firm in Midtown Manhattan at the time, one of the global consulting firms. And even before 9/11, I don't know how many of you remember this, I remember this clearly. It was 1997, and I opened up the Jewish Week, right? It was the weekend paper of the Jewish community at the time in New York City. And like the head article, I don't remember if it was like the on the front cover or inside, but one of the head articles was celebrating all the Jewish organizations for helping the Muslim immigrant community get acclimated in New York City on the municipal level, at the state level, at the federal level, and the whole message was, we were immigrants, we had to get set up, we successfully acclimated to life in America, and now we're paying it forward and helping this community. And how do I remember this and remember the timing of it? Because I wrote a letter to the editor. And this is in 1997. And my letter to the editor basically said, don't you see what is happening in Western Europe? Western Europe is self-destructing because it has opened up its arms to massive Muslim immigration. You are burying the Jewish community in America by actively assisting. This isn't something the Jewish community should be celebrating. 1997, I wrote that letter. You think they printed the letter? No, it wasn't printed. But that's already based on my, again, I was, 1997, 24 years old. I'm not that knowledgeable. I didn't go for a doctorate or whatever in Middle East studies or religions, but just as a student of history and looking at the facts and not thinking too much, because sometimes we overthink. Sometimes we're overeducated. And when so many of our most well-educated people miss the forest from the trees. But again, as a 24-year-old student of history, seeing what was happening in the world, it was clear to me what was happening and what is going to come to America as well. So I want to start my talk by saying the following. I'm literally here to save Jewish lives. Because we have a problem, a major problem. And it's not the enemies we have in the Middle East attacking Israel, and that we're going to have to stand up and have an army probably forever until Mashiach comes. and be proud of the fact that we need an army to stand up forever until Mashiach comes, and not be embarrassed about having to raise a gun to defend ourselves if necessary? That's not the problem. The problem is that we have growing Jew-hating anti-Semitism across the West, and especially in America. And I'm talking to many people here who I am sure are thinking like, I'll take it from this perspective. My grandmother, Aleh Shalom, grew up in Lomza, Poland. One of the only survivors, her and her family. Her father was smart, got out of Poland after World War I because he saw that it wasn't a place for Jews to live anymore. So thank God she got out with her parents and her siblings. That's it. The whole rest of the family wiped out in Auschwitz, Lomza, Warsaw, God. I'm so glad she's not alive today to see what's happening to America. Because she's the generation that America's the Golden Medina. Saved the Jewish people. Allowed Jews to live safely. Even with the hardships, even yes, there was anti-Semitism even in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, but even with that, America was the Golden Medina. America's not the Golden Medina anymore. And times are not going back to what was. Things are just going to get worse. Much worse. And the problem is, very few people in the Jewish community are telling the Jewish community what in the world is going on. Why? Why? If you don't know the why, you can't solve the problem. I'm sure there are plenty of doctors in here. If a doctor gives the wrong diagnosis, it doesn't make a difference what medication or procedure he gives to solve the problem. It won't solve the problem. So if the Jewish community today is leaderless, with all of our legacy organizations continuing to throw millions and billions of dollars into the same things that they've been doing for decades to fight anti-Semitism, mostly focused on Holocaust education and Holocaust museums, and if we only tell them the truth, then they'll stop hating us. And if we only create alliances with all these other organizations and communities and identities, then we'll be okay. Then we'll have allies, then people will be educated, then people will understand what the Jewish people have gone through. And we'll get out of this. Well, guess what? How much money has the Jewish community invested in doing that already for decades? And where do we see things happening today? Has anyone apologized yet for saying that they were wrong? That it failed? That we have to change course? Stop funding the initiatives that brought us not only nothing, it helped make all this grow. And I'll tell you exactly why it helped make this grow. The second we remain focused on fighting anti-Semitism and trying to educate with the facts, and Holocaust education and Holocaust museums, guess what message we're giving over to everybody? We are victims. Woe is us. Poor Jews. Please, please act differently towards us. And I don't know about you, but when I grew up, there was a book called Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And I'm almost certain one of those lessons are that if you're facing a bully, you do not, and if there are any educators in here, definitely early childhood educators, if you're facing a bully, the way to stop the bully from bullying you or the kid is not by begging, please don't bully me. Woe is me. That achieves the exact opposite. That empowers the bully to bully even more. It's all a game of psychology. You know how you stop the bully? By standing up to the bully and making the bully see that you are not afraid, that you are proud, that you have a purpose, And the bully has his own psychological issues, and hence he is focused on you and ignoring the real issues going on in his or her life. And yet today, on the national level, on the Jewish organizational level, everyone's acting as if we're victims. And you know who's paying the price? Every single Jew in the West and in America. Every single Jew. You know who's paying the worst price of the Jewish community? Our children and grandchildren, because they're orphans. They are flagging their arms in the water with no life vest and no lifeguard coming out to get them, because everyone is focused on fighting anti-Semitism, and that's not helping our children and grandchildren, especially in the universities, in high schools, and I don't care even if they're in Orthodox high schools. They're not getting it either. They're orphans. That's the problem. That's what I'm trying to help save Jewish souls. And that's what the Pulse of Israel is about, trying to be a voice that gives a Torah-based, Emunah-based understanding of what the Jewish people and the state of Israel are going through today, because the kernel of everything that the Jewish world is missing is the truth is, we're not victims. We're victors. We have the most inspiring story in all of humanity, and our own children are not getting it. In our own institutions. And they're not prepared for the universities. I mean, you could say it in one sentence. We are the only people, the only indigenous people in the world who, after thousands of years of continued exile and persecution and no sovereignty over their ancestral homeland with their ancestral holy sites, have returned to be sovereign in our ancestral homeland with our holy sites, with an army to defend ourselves to make sure it never happens again. We should be the poster child of every university classroom and university professor. And even, we're the most oppressed, but we don't play the oppressed Olympics. Because we're not focused on being oppressed. The Jewish people are focused on moving forward. We're always focused on moving forward. And today the Jewish state of Israel, not 80 years. Not 80 years old. We are a superpower of the world. A superpower. Every Jewish child today should be walking around proud of his Jewish identity. Proud of his brethren. Proud of our people, of what we've accomplished. Understanding we're living in miraculous times each and every day. That our existence is a miracle. That every day he or she should be thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thanking God for where we are. To be living today. Knowing what our grandparents and great-grandparents experienced. Whether in Nazi Germany, whether in Poland, whether in Britain. You know how many times we were expelled from Poland and Britain and Poland and Britain over the past hundreds of years? There's a reason we're called the Wandering Jew. And today everyone in America thinks they're American. No. And it takes the anti-Semites to remind the Jews, you're not American. You're not French, you're not British, you're not Australian, you're not Canadian. You're a Jew. You're a Jew. And with everything going on in America today, you think your grandchildren are going to be American citizens? Big question mark. But again, I'm a student of history. Every single place things were good turned into disaster. Only a matter of when, not if. And we're already seeing the seeds today. And the best way to help our children and grandchildren deal, there's no fighting anti-Semitism. There always was anti-Semitism, there always will be anti-Semitism. Why? And this is what our leaders are not telling us. What we're experiencing today is a spiritual battle. Because who are we, the Jewish people? Seriously, who are we? Yeah, we're supposed to follow God's commandments and be good people. 100%. But we're more than that. Much more than that. That's just on the individual level. And you can be a good Jew following halacha, or as best as possible, whatever religious level the best Jew you can be, no matter where you live in the world. But who are we as a nation? Who are we supposed to be? We were chosen for a purpose. Not because we're better, but for a purpose. For whatever reason, God said, I think the best way to bring morality to the universe and to bring a connection and appreciation of God to the universe is by choosing one people to be my representative, them acting as I am giving them the guidebook to life to act in the land I give them to live in, and by them being this model nation in the Holy Land I give them to watch over, then morality and goodness and godliness will spread over the world. We represent goodness, morality, and godliness. Now do you understand why we're hated? Who wants goodness, godliness, and morality? Plenty of people don't want it. Plenty of leaders don't want it. Plenty of other religions don't want it, even though they're so-called religions. And why do I say so-called religions? I believe, call me crazy, that anyone who is supposed to worship God and be a good person should not believe in an ideology that preaches the murder and persecution of anyone not like you, right? Call me crazy. So I don't think I have a problem saying what too many people won't say. The way Islam is practiced by many Muslims around the world, according to a 1,400 plus year jihad to take over the world and persecute everyone else, that's not a religion. That's a political ideology to persecute everybody else if we don't toe the line and become Muslim. How many of our leaders are saying this? You want to tolerate anti-godliness? Well, you can bury your grave today because it's going to be buried by someone else tomorrow. And our students and our children are not being told this, because don't you dare say such a thing today, because there are families in the community, they'll pull their kids out of the school. They'll pull their donations out of the school. Don't you dare say the truth. That hurts my sensibilities. We have to tolerate everybody. No, you tolerate good. You do not tolerate evil. And today, our own community, our own Jewish organizations are so afraid of saying the truth that we're not tolerating evil. We're enabling evil by our silence. So that's the Islam component. Now you understand the spiritual battle taking place. They don't want us here because we actually represent God. They don't want the goodness and the morality that we represent. Now let's go to the socialist communist direction. Again, I'm no student of history, but call me crazy. An agenda that basically erases the differences between genders. That there's no more male, female, you can be whatever you want, you can change what you want. Don't you dare use language that says someone's a guy, someone's a girl. That's anti-God. Anti-God. I have no problem with anyone. They choose to make changes, fine. I'll respect and love any individual. But to respect an ideology, allow that ideology into our community. Allow it to be taught as tolerant in our own community and schools, Orthodox schools. It's be something different? Gesundheit. Gesundheit, I'll still love you. I love you. God created you. You do what you want to do. But to turn that into an agenda, a philosophy that has to overtake all of society, we all have to accept that agenda? It's anti-God. And who stands up again for God? We do. So the socialist, communist, red aspect of what's going on in society today has also targeted us. Despite all the decades of the Jewish communal work on alliances and relationship building with all these different organizations, of all these different agendas and communities, nothing. Garnished. Hasn't helped because no one's understanding. It's a spiritual battle. They're against us because it's a spiritual battle. And we're not talking spirit. We talk facts. No one cares about facts today. Nobody cares about facts. So instead of focused on the facts, let's empower our communities, our children, our grandchildren with the spiritual life vest so that they can walk proudly as Jews and not let the anti-Semites get to them. All right, so I dealt with, and believe me, I'm going to get to the miracles in a second. Don't worry. So we dealt with the spiritual battle that we see from Islam. We dealt with the spiritual battle from the socialist communist aspect that's growing in America and taking over. Again, all you New Yorkers out there, can you believe it? We have a socialist Islamist mayor of New York City. Sayonara, New York City. Goodbye, New York City. I grew up in New York City. I love growing up in New York City. Goodbye, New York City. New York City's going to look like London within the next, 4 or 5 years. Right? And the biggest anomaly is he's a socialist Islamist. There's no such thing as a socialist Islamist. He's an Islamist who's been trained to act like a socialist in order to get the whole, forgive me for saying, not so smart people who think they're very smart to vote for him to be mayor, in order to implement an Islamist agenda. That's what's going on in New York City. And they have hundreds in the pipeline to come up as mayors and governors and city councilmen all across America. And don't listen to Javier Below. Plenty of videos of them saying this publicly in their own conventions all across America. That's the future for America. Because democracy does not have the tools to stop a subversive population that uses the tools of democracy. And I know Florida is the safest place to be today for a Jew in America. Baruch Hashem for that. But I have something to tell you. Do not trust any politician. Do not trust any election. Do not trust all Republicans. Only trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? And I'd like to say otherwise, and I hope I'm wrong, but yes, it's coming to Florida too. They're working really hard. There's a reason there are a lot of Muslims in Florida today, just as the Democrats have moved to a lot of Muslims to Texas because they're specifically targeting the Republican states to change demographically because they know how the rules are played. And once you have the demographic votes, call me crazy, I imagine some people might disagree with me. Not every politician really cares about the issues. So we hope and pray that we get one that actually does, but some will say what they have to say to get into power and ignore the reality and ignore that even selling their soul to get votes from a growing Muslim population is the death knell of Florida as we know it and as a future of freedoms for their children and grandchildren in Florida. And again, all you have to do is look at Britain, France, Brussels, Norway. It's right there in front of us. It's not like something from the history books. It's right in front of us to see. And again, who's telling this to our children? In order to know the reality of what's going on, right? So I dealt with the problem of the 1,400-year-old genocidal cult that's called Islam. And again, it's not an issue of all Muslims. There's some plenty of good Muslims. It's not about Muslims. But yes, you have to understand the core of Islam to hundreds of millions is a 1,400-year-old jihad to take over the world and either kill or persecute everyone else. All right? Islam, the reds. The greens, the reds. The red-green alliance. Now let's go to Christianity. Okay? And this I was just shocked about to learn even more, because I wasn't even on top of this beforehand. Right before my speaking tour here in Florida, I had 3 days of meetings with congressmen and senators and their staff in Washington, D.C. Because one of my projects of my organization, that I work with some amazing people, Ruthie Pillay and Sarah Pillay and Ruthie Lieberman, is a project that we call the Yes Israel Project to strengthen the U.S.-Israel Strategic Alliance by educating as many congressmen and senators with the truth about what's going on in Israel, with the Torah, Emunah-based truth. And we bring them on trips, we show them what other trips do not show them, we have them meet people that other people don't necessarily meet, and then after we develop relationships with them, also we bring them like 2, 3 at a time, so we really develop intimate relationships with them to be of as much assistance as possible moving forward when they're back in Washington, behind the scenes, to be able to help in terms of decisions, legislation, etc., etc. So I just spent 3 days running around office to office in Washington, D.C. And again, our approach is, we're not here to ask you for anything. We're here to say thank you for whatever you are doing to support Israel. How can we help you? So in all these mess, and I don't know how many people here have done lobbying in Washington with APAC or NORPAC or anything. So anyone who knows lobbying, usually you go to Washington, you get into a congressional office, and the staffer asks you, okay, what can I do to help you? And they sit there taking notes. And sometimes they're listening, sometimes they're not listening. Sometimes you're in an office that cares, sometimes you're in an office that doesn't care. Fine. Our approach is totally different. I just spent 3 days of going into an office, and when they say, what can I do to help you? I say, thank you. I don't need anything. I'm here to help strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. How can I help you? What are the issues? What are the challenges? What's going on in Washington today? What's the climate? And then they open up to me. And then they ask me questions. What's really going on? Is this information correct? How can we help on this issue, that issue, whatever? It's a totally different modus operandi. What did I learn on this trip? Oh, first of all, we try our best to work with Republicans and Democrats. With every year, it's getting harder and harder for any Democrats even to answer emails. Forget about setting up meetings. I did have 2, I think, the best meetings with Democratic offices. I won't mention any names. And I met the staffers and one congressman I met afterwards. The staffers were basically crying to me about how horrible the situation is in Washington today for Israel and Jewish people. They're like, our congressmen are totally alone. No reliance whatsoever. They're pariahs in their own party if they want to stand up for Israel or Jewish issues. And they're also afraid of what's happening in the Republican Party. What's happening in the Republican Party? I didn't even know this until I got to Washington. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons and all the growing, and the Nick Fuentes and the growing number, unfortunately, of blatant neo-Nazis today, or people espousing Nazi ideology, or total blatant anti-Semitism spreading to conservatives and to Catholics, and turning Christians and others that would otherwise be supporters of Israel from the Republican, conservative, Christian community. Well, I had 3 congressional meetings, and only 3, meaning out of like the 50 meetings I had, these were only 3 that mentioned this problem. The others didn't know about it. They were asking me about all different cases of Israel discriminating against Christians. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And they told me different things. I don't have to go into detail right now what they were about. And some of them I knew details about, and totally misinformation. I'll give you one, just to give you like the context. They said, Israel's stealing church land. Like, what are you talking about? Israel's the most like legalized society that goes against Jewish values, trying to show the world how moral we are. Right? They go above and beyond our Supreme Court and standing up for everyone else. And they don't let us build in Judea and Samaria, saying it belongs to some Arab that has no ownership to it. They're allowing Israel to steal church land. What are you talking about? So they told me, I don't know how many are familiar. If you go into the old city, by the Jaffa Gate, you walk in, on the left there's a hotel. a Jewish-owned hotel around 100 some odd years ago. The Greek Catholic Church purchased it at some point in time, owned it, until around 15, 20 years ago, the Greek patriarch, the representative of the Greek Orthodox Church in Israel, sold it to some Jewish organization. And then the Greek Orthodox Church was so upset at him, like he did it legally, he did it with a permission or whatever, that they fired him and replaced him with another Greek patriarch, who then went to the courts to fight the sale of the property. It's been in the courts for like 15, 20 years. And it's gone to appeal after appeal after appeal after. Why? Because it had all the documentation. It's a legal real estate deal. And even the Supreme Court finally, after like 15 or 20 years, made the final decision, yeah, it belongs to the Jews. Total legal real estate deal. That's being used right now, being spread by certain, I imagine, Catholics in America, and it's reaching their representatives in Congress, how Israel is discriminating against Christians in Israel. This is a real issue. I had one congressman who knew about this, who told me straight out, you don't understand. These congressmen are starting to vote against Israel. If they en bloc, because the person told me around how many they are as a bloc, if they en bloc start voting with the Democrats on bills that they perceive as pro-Israel, it's not only bad for Israel, it's bad for America. Because there are plenty of bills that are good for America that include provisions that have to do with Israel or funding for whatever joint projects. They're like, this is bad for America. So I found out that information. I was shocked. I didn't hear about this. And I immediately sent the information to the Prime Minister's office, immediately sent the information to a journalist I know in Israel. This has to be dealt with. But what's the spiritual battle? Believe it or not, this is actually crazier, because there's actually Ambassador Mike Huckabee who's explaining to us. There's a war right now in Christianity, for whatever reason, between the Catholics and like the Protestants and the evangelicals. And they're using the Jews and Israel as the wedge issue to cause the divide and to get evangelicals and Protestants to turn on Israel and turn on the Jews. But it's something internally for them. And again, I'm no theologian, but the major difference I understand between like the evangelicals and the Catholics, the evangelicals actually read the Bible. And there's some amazing, amazing Catholics. Not all Catholics hate Israel or anti-Semitic. But a major difference is that in Catholicism, they don't necessarily rely on the Bible. The Pope was the Bible. The Pope was the final say on everything. So there's a big difference there. And again, they're using the Jews. So we're a wedge issue in a spiritual battle that everyone's pointing their arrows at us. The red, communist socialists, the green, the jihadi Muslims, and even some in the Christian world, most of the Catholic world. And it's all on us right now. It has nothing to do with us. It's a war on God. But we, as the representatives of God, are getting all the arrows. All right, so now let's go from the missiles to miracles, because these are the stories of today. I started off by saying the one sentence we should be inspiring in our children and grandchildren every single day that they should be getting in all their educational messages. Now I'm going to go to the now. Now I'm going to go to this war. I'm just going to touch upon 3 of the many, many miracles that took place in this war. Number 1, Iran has invested trillions of dollars over decades on a surprise attack to destroy Israel. They invested in Hezbollah, they invested in Hamas, they invested in the Houthis, they invested in proxies in Iraq, they invested in proxies in Syria under Bashar Assad. They had a plan to destroy Israel in a surprise attack in a 7-front war. Now let's look at October 7th. October 7th was supposed to be the total annihilation of the Jewish state of Israel. Total annihilation! Annihilation of every single Jew, Christian, Muslim, Druze, atheist who live in Israel. Total annihilation! Do you understand how miraculous it is that I am standing here today? That Iran's global plan, and they literally have a clock in Iran, a countdown to the destruction of Israel. They were investing in this for decades. They didn't invest in water for their people. They didn't invest in education for their people. They didn't invest at all in their people. They invested in destroying the Jewish state of Israel into ashes. And even though October 7th is the worst tragedy that we as a Jewish people have experienced since the Holocaust, it is miraculous that only 1,250 Jews, or whatever the number is, were murdered on October 7th, and that the whole Israeli population. You understand how big of a miracle it is? It's okay, we're human beings. Life is complex. We can be sad about what transpired on October 7th. We can fight for the hostages to be freed. But we've gone through 2+ years of depression in the Jewish community. The whole focus was on the tragedy of October 7th and on all the hostages to get out. And no one was saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thank you so much that we're alive. Thank you so much that only that happened. One day we're going to have a holiday. We're going to have a holiday. I'm sure there are plenty of more rabbinic, learned people in this room than I. But I'm almost positive. The holiday of Hanukkah did not start immediately. It was not an 8-day experience. The Maccabean Wars was like close to 30 years. And even after it ended, the holiday of Hanukkah wasn't instituted and celebrated by the Jewish people. It took time. It wasn't immediate. Oh, we were saved, let's make a holiday. It took time. Purim also. The miracle of Esther and Mordecai, they did it the next year. It took a few years. One day we're going to have a holiday about this war that we just experienced. Because we just experienced an unbelievable miracle October 7th and many more. So that's miracle number 1. Miracle number 2 of October 7th itself. The army wasn't there. And I told you, I'm a proud IDF soldier, dreamt of being an IDF soldier to stand up and protect my people. Without going into the why, that's a totally different subject, totally different talk. Anyone who follows me, I'm going to get there. I talk about this every once in a while. One day there will be a whole deep dive about it. But it's very depressing. Our leadership, it's not the soldier. The soldiers are unbelievable. Leadership on all levels failed us. We weren't there. But Hamas was planning on going all the way up to Tel Aviv. They were going to massacre hundreds of thousands just on their own, even without anyone else. And the only reason they did not succeed is because we live in an unbelievable generation of what I call King David-like Jewish soldiers who ran down south on Simchat Torah morning, whether they had a uniform or didn't have a uniform, whether they had a gun or didn't have a gun, and ran into the terror fire and literally saved tens, if not hundreds of thousands of lives that day. Because the army wasn't ready. And Hamas would have continued. And and again, not everything is al hateva. Not everything is above nature. This is something natural. But it's natural because we are raising Jewish children today in the environment where in the air they get the motivation to be King David-like warriors. That's why I'm so proud. It makes me so proud and happy to hear of 18, 19, 20, 20 plus year olds from America, Canada, Britain, Australia, who make the decision to join us and be part of that miraculous generation. And be part of that King David-like spirit. So that's miracle number 2 of October 7th. Plenty of miracles. Let's go to miracle number 3 of the war. This has to do with Iran. We had a 12-day ballistic missile attack on Israel, where I don't remember the exact numbers, but around, let's say, 27, I think, people were killed during that 12 days of ballistic missiles. We were also supposed to be destroyed just by that. We're the only country in the world to have been attacked that way. We're a tiny country, smaller than New Jersey. It's not like there's much statistical error going on. You hit someone, you're going to hit somebody. 12 days of thousands and thousands of ballistic missiles? And how do I know this is a miracle? not because I'm saying it, but because one of the scientists who worked on the missile defense systems, we don't have one system, we have plenty of systems. There are different types of ballistic missiles, different power, different speed, do I know, space. So we have different types of missile defense systems. And after those 12 days of, I don't like calling it a 12-day war, again, because anyone who follows me knows I don't trust the media. Don't trust the media. We're manipulated all the time by media reporting and news of what's going on. And it's not the journalists' fault, because the journalists don't even know what the heck's going on themselves. They just think they know the facts and they report but they think they know our facts. But they don't have the basis or the understanding to really report what's going on. And even in the Jewish Israeli media. But it's not a 12-day, it wasn't a 12-day war. Iran's been at war with us for decades. So it's like we're deluding ourselves. They're still at war with us. So 12 days of ballistic missiles. So one of the scientists who worked on the missile defense system, he goes, you don't understand. I don't know how many scientists there are here. The statistical number or percentage that was given for success rates for these missile defense systems were not in the 90%. And yet, they worked almost, not 100%, but they worked, Baruch Hashem, in ways that the scientists themselves were shocked at how well they worked. And not only did they each work independently well, they all worked in the coordinated fashion that was planned to do, which in and of itself is miraculous. All these various systems, I don't know how many technology people are. I mean, it's not easy to program things to work close to perfect. And for one thing to work close to perfect, for two things to work close to perfect, for all of them to work close to perfect together, folks, we're living miracles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is out there watching over us. Who's telling our kids this? Hold your heads up high. Why are you getting depressed about being called a baby killer, which is a total lie, and doesn't make a difference what piece of truth you try to fight in the media battle? The person's not going to care about the truth anyway. You feel proud that you're a living miracle. Your people is a living miracle. Your nation state, your ancestral homeland is a living miracle. Where's that narrative in our Jewish community today? By organizations to empower our kids to feel proud in being Jews and be part of the most miraculous story of humanity, bichlal, and specifically today. We are a walking miracle as a people, and not only should we feel good about it, we have to be thankful for it. Where is the push to have deeper emunah, to strengthen our connection to God? Everything happening today is because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to have the best soldiers as possible and deal with whatever mistakes might happen, but it's not up to us as individuals. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is waiting for us to partner with Him. We do our half, He does His half. And how are we ignoring of thanking Him every single second and not being taught every moment of the day that the most important muscle in our body is not our brain, it's our emunah muscle. It's the emunah muscle. We all know what life is like. Life is not perfect, life is not happy, life is filled with tragedy and sickness and death. That's life. And the best way to get through that, the stronger one has a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and emunah, and it's not easy, and it's not a crutch, it's a power. It's a power, it's a gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. And it doesn't make a difference how much Gemara you learn, how much Halach you learn. If you're not studying emunah every day, well, you don't necessarily have strong emunah. So tell your kids and your grandkids, find themselves teachers, find themselves people in the Jewish world who will give them inspiration to work on that emunah muscle. Because that's our power as a people. And that's the power we see in Israel today. I just talked about the missile, the miracles of the war. Now I want to show you the anthropological, I don't even know how to say that word, the human-based miracles we're seeing in the society of Israel today. Because even though we've been in this 2+ year war, every single family knows at least someone who's been killed in this war, if not more. Every single year, there's a global report that comes out of the happiest countries in the world. Israel consistently comes out in the top 10. Even during this past 2+ years. What other people do you know have their sons, neighbors, husbands, fathers out fighting in a war, 2+ years, everyone knowing someone who was impacted by the war, and yet the top song in the music charts is a song that says, God loves me and everything will be good. Hashem yitbarach, tamid ohev oti, v'tamid yeh li rak tov. What other country in the world would do that? What other people? And it's not just the religious singing this song. It's those who are not as religious or not religious at all. I was at a special Simchat Torah Hakafot Shniot, right? The dancing with the Sefer Torah on the second night where Simchat Torah is over in Israel, but it's also celebrated. And it was a special one. It was organized by an ultra-Orthodox Haredi organization for families and survivors who experienced the tragedy of October 7th. And this organization did not want to do the event because they're all about trying to bridge the gap between the secular and the ultra-Orthodox, and they don't do it for religious reasons, and it's not to have them become religious, it's totally just to have the communities get to know each other. Fabulous organization, I think it's called Kesher Yehudi. And they specifically did not want to have an event on the first anniversary, Simchat Torah, for the tragedy the year before. And 2 weeks before Simchat Torah, the first anniversary, survivors of the Nova massacre, of the festival, contacted the organization, because they had done events during the year, saying, why is there no event as an anniversary? We need it. You give us koach, you give us strength. Do something for Simchat Torah. So in 2 weeks, they put this all together. Hundreds of families of survivors and from down south and of hostages and those killed, together with Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox Haredi community members. And I was invited for the nighttime singing and dancing. You had this song being sung and danced to by ultra-Orthodox, by secular, by the families of the hostages, by survivors, holding up their signs, holding up their faces. This is a year, literally the year anniversary. They're mostly all still inside Gaza, all the hostages. That's the power of the Jewish people today, folks. You don't get this in the media. The media gives you the divisive headlines. The media gives you the latest scandal. The media gives you the stories, oh, be upset at this person, be upset at this community, this issue should make you upset, now this issue should make you upset. It's all Baba Maisa. Stop listening to the media, the Jewish media. We're all being manipulated for greater agendas to make us upset and divided for whatever reasons. And that's a whole different talk. The reality of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael today, and again, I'm a student of history, so everyone please tell me otherwise. Whenever anyone starts pontificating and complaining and screaming, oh, division, we need achdus. Folks, when was there ever total achdus in the Jewish people? Right? Since Har Sinai, right? We've been a divided people. All right? Always divided. I mean, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just a realist, right? I'm looking you out in the face. Look at the mirror. Today in Israel, you have ultra-Orthodox, national religious, secular, working together, studying together, in the streets together, in the hospitals together. 90% of we're more unified today than ever before in our history since Har Sinai. I'm totally bullish about the achdus of Am Yisrael. Just don't read the media. Are there things that divide us? Are there things we argue about? Well, I have plenty of couples in here. Are you, your husband, wife, do you agree on everything all the time? All the time? Never argue. Never, sometimes even go to sleep a little bit upset at each other. Now you have kids, they grow up in the same home. They're always together, always on good relations, never an issue with the daughter-in-law, never an issue with the son-in-law. What world are we in? No, life is about how we overcome human psychology, relationships to make things as best as possible. And on the historical level, we've never been better. And yet every day, we're being divided. Every day, be upset at this group, be upset at that group. No, things are not perfect. We have plenty of things to work on in Israel. Plenty of things. And guess what? Whenever people tell me, oh, I'm not making Aliyah because this issue or that issue, I'm like, that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to make Aliyah. So we'd be there, the ones fixing the issues. It's not supposed to be perfect for us. We're supposed to go there and be part of the process, the miraculous process of making this model society of being moral, good, and godly to be that representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the world. And again, are these messages being given across to our children and grandchildren? The spiritual battle and the unbelievable miracles we're going through, and the unbelievable state of Am Yisrael and Israel today. And I'll throw out these two little examples also. Here I am, wearing my tzitzit, right? There are plenty of teenagers and young men, adult men in Israel today who are not walking around with a kippah, but they're wearing tzitzits. And not everybody, but it's happening. It's happening. So then, one of the musicians, one of the famous musicians in Israel, very, very popular musician, I forgot his name, he does this himself, and he was asked, he's been interviewed a lot, and he's always asked this question, and they're like, why are you wearing tzitzit and not a kippah? Okay, and this guy wasn't brought up religious, right? And his answer is as follows. Well, I know that the mitzvah of tzitzit is written in the Torah. Mitzvah d'oraita. I know the mitzvah of putting on a kippah is actually written by the rabbis hundreds of years later. Mitzvah midorabanan. Or minhag. And I'm not going into the halachic ramifications here. No rabbi. Go to your local rabbi. So right now, I want to do what the Torah says, and maybe later on I'll do what the rabbi said. Hey, it's unbelievable! It's unbelievable! But you have many, not many. It's not everybody, but you have many. This is the state of Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael today. And now let's go to the girls. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Everyone here, I'm sure, tries their best to get the slichot, either in the morning or at night. And I'm almost positive Young Israel is an Ashkenazi synagogue, right? So Svardim, they go to slichot for a month before. You had girls, secular girls, meaning didn't grow up in religious homes, in Tel Aviv, flocking to slichot every night. Did you hear about that in the media? It was actually reported in the media in Israel. Flocking! Even some mothers went. They went to their daughters. Again, I know this because this was a good news report on the media, so I know I could trust this one. Because they never report good news. And the daughter was saying, yeah, we come home, and the mothers are like, what are you doing? And we were so excited, and we're so inspired, and we told our mothers, and mothers started joining their daughters. Are they all religious? Are they all Shomer Shabbat? Are they all lighting candles? I have no clue. I don't care. Just the fact that these teenage girls, the TikTok generation, are flocking to slichot. And boys putting on tzitzit. Am Yisrael is strengthening its connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Israel. It's in the air. Because of the failures of October 7th, which is for another talk, everyone knows the only reason we're surviving today is because of Hashem, because of God above. And therefore they are going in the direction of strengthening their Jewish identity. Some might be lighting candles, some might be trying better to do Shabbat, some are wearing tzitzit. Doesn't make any difference. I'm not a judge. But each one is doing something to strengthen. It's not everybody, but it's a lot. And it's a trend. And that's something you feel in Israel more than anywhere outside of Israel. Now I want to talk about the what now. So how do we win? How do we beat? And I'm not talking about beating our enemies in the Middle East. Israel will be okay. With all of our mistakes, the mistakes that will continue happening, and geopolitical pressures. I mean, I can get to a talk about Iran, I can get to a talk about Gaza, I can get to talk about Syria and Lebanon another time, not for now. Now I'm trying to just inspire with beyond the spiritual basis of everything going on. We're going to beat our enemies. There are going to be ups and downs. We're going to have downs, but we're going to have ups, and we're going to continue going. Because some people think, oh, we're finally going to have this war with Iran. I don't know, it happens tomorrow, it happens in a month, it happens in 2 months, no clue. And then everything will be better. Guess what? I'm going to give you the one practical reason how I know it's not going to be better. And I'm sure everyone already knows it's not going to be better. But you're going to be shocked by this one. There were a couple of countries actively lobbying President Trump not to take down the Islamic regime of Iran. You know which countries? No, don't believe it. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, right? Now, anyone not familiar with the world of Islam, the Middle East? The Sunnis of Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia hate the Shiites of Iran. The Shiites of Iran hate the Sunnis. They kill each other all the time. They've been killing each other also for 1,400 years, although since Shia was created, okay, because it's split off from Islam, however many years ago, okay? They've been killing each other all the time. The biggest threat to the existence of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey is not Israel. It's Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is actively in battle. Iran's actively in battles. Sometimes we hear about them, sometimes we don't hear about them, because the Western world doesn't really care about what happens in the Middle East, or how many Muslims are killed by fellow Muslims. They don't, or even Christians, or Druze, or Kurds. Muslims are doing it, no one cares about it. So no Jews, no news, right? The biggest enemy to these Sunni countries is Iran. So how does it make sense that they're the ones lobbying the Trump administration not to take down the Islamic regime of Iran? It makes no sense. Trump is about to give them the biggest president in the world, knocking out their major enemy. So now we come back to the spiritual battle. Because the Sunni countries of the Middle East know that if the Islamic regime of Iran is taken down, who turns into the regional superpower of the Middle East?
Israel.
The Jewish state of Israel. And even with all these talks of normalization and deals with Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Syria, they don't want us. They are more afraid of Israel becoming the superpower, even though we present no threat to Saudi Arabia. We're not going to do anything to them. Because it's a spiritual battle. It's not about land. They know they want Israel, and Israel can't be a regional power. The Jews can't be over us in the region. They are more afraid of us being the regional power that they are actively lobbying the Trump administration not to take down their enemy, Iran, the Shia Islam. It's a spiritual battle. Who's talking about this? Help people understand what's going on. And here's the other thing how I know how we're going to win and not win this war. And I'm going to go back to the first Iraqi war. General Petraeus, I think, right? First Iraqi war. There is a book. I don't know if it's yet been translated into English, but everyone should buy it. Written by Israeli journalist Tzvi Chezkeli, who interviewed some of the officers under General Petraeus in the Iraqi war, and it's written in his book. I called it Jihad. It's in Hebrew. Anyone who reads Hebrew, highly recommend reading it, and buy it when it comes out in English. And he relates the story of interviewing this U.S. officer who tells him that General Petraeus and the U.S. forces conquered this city in Iraq, and the Muslim tribal leaders, the people who were being massacred by Saddam Hussein, were not celebrating. So they decided, let's have a celebratory dinner in a Saddam Hussein palace. Invite them over. Hopefully everything will be good and they'll be happy. So they ordered local food that they eat, right? Saddam Hussein Palace. All local tribal leaders come in. They're not eating. Not eating. So this U.S. officer asks one of the tribal leaders, why aren't you eating? And the tribal leader answers, we're confused. So the U.S. officer looks back, well, what are you confused about? And the tribal leader goes, who won? So the U.S. officer goes, we defeated Saddam Hussein. We are in his palace. We are hosting you at a dinner. We won. And here's what the Western world doesn't want to hear, and what our overeducated Western university students, children, grandchildren, professionals will not like to hear either. He goes, I'm confused. We're confused because when we win, we rape the women, we kill the men, we expel everyone, and we take over the land. You didn't do that to us, so we're confused. Years later, this journalist, Tzvi Cheskeli, bumped into this U.S. officer, and the U.S. officer basically said, guess what? They were right. We did not win. That's the Arab, Muslim, Middle East. We're not being taught that. Our kids aren't being taught that. We're tolerating evil by not teaching our kids what we're up against. And they're not only in the Middle East. They're in London, they're in Paris, they're in New York City, they're in Deerfield, Michigan, they're in Patterson, New Jersey. They're all over Florida. Not everyone is bad, but plenty of them are. And they're doing the same playbook. That's what they aim to do. But why am I optimistic? Because I know it's a spiritual battle. And I flew here on Sunday night. I took the flight out of Tel Aviv to get to DC. And Sunday morning, I wanted to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu the best way possible nowadays for any Jew, the strongest way possible. And everyone can have their own halachic differences and go to your local rabbi. But I believe the Rambam is a strong enough source for me, and plenty of rabbis since. And I went up to Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount, on Sunday morning. I've been going up to Har HaBayit for over 20 years. Anyone familiar with Yehuda Glick, a hero of mine? Oh, he spoke here! Amazing! So Yehuda's a hero of mine, really spearheaded the fight for freedom of religion for Jews on our holiest site. It's like insane. So I don't have to go to the details, but over the years, we weren't allowed up there. Then when we're allowed, then you're not allowed to move your lips. You're thrown off, you're thrown into jail, even if you just move your lips. Forget about saying a bracha, forget about prayer. Over the past few years, thank God, not only is there prayer on Har HaBayit, now there are minyanim. You can go up and daven mincha on Har HaBayit. Sometimes there's shachris on Har HaBayit. And this Sunday was the first time that I went up there, the latest major change. Now we have Jews going up to Har HaBayit and bowing down. Right? After that, that's huge. I don't know how people don't understand. That is totally huge. And you want to know how I know that's huge? Not because the rabbis are talking about it, because most rabbis don't want to talk about it. Because one rabbi who goes up to Har HaBayit noticed that there are less and less Muslims going up to Har HaBayit. So he asked one of the Muslims, like the elderly Muslims, why are there less Muslims coming up to Har HaBayit? And the Muslim told him, we see you Jews are coming up bowing down now. We see you're taking it back. We don't want to go up there as much anymore. That's how I know we're winning this spiritual battle. We're not going to act like our enemies, but when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees us acting like Jews, and yes, standing up for our rights. You don't want to go up to Har HaBayit, your local rabbi says otherwise, don't worry about it. The rest of us who have the rabbinic authority and opinion based on the Rambam and others to do it, we're going to do it. We shouldn't be talking to our kids a language and a narrative of being victims fighting antisemitism. We should be talking and invigorating them about rebuilding the Beit HaMikdash. How are we supposed to be the nation connected to God, spreading godliness, if we're not even educating our children what we're supposed to do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash for ourselves. It's in order that the physical structure, as we are in a physical world, today the evil in humanity, the evil that surrounds us, who will say, oh my God, the godly people of the Jewish people and the national state of Israel are back. And God is here. It's a spiritual battle. We have to play on the spiritual battlefield. And all of our organizations and all of our educational institutions, because of political correctness, are not telling our story to our children. And in Israel, we're not waiting for the decisions by the politicians and the chief rabbis. In Israel, there are enough Jews who know Torah, who know what our purpose is. We're moving forward. Let me remind you this. The history of settlements in Israel, it did not start in the 1970s in Judea and Samaria. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the history. Under the British mandate, how did we build in Israel? Were we allowed by the British? No! Chomal Migdal. We went around the law against the British. We found a loophole in order against the law. That's how we started building up in the beginning of the 20th century. Then we liberated Judea and Samaria in this miraculous Six-Day War. Did the government push for building in Judea and Samaria? Who knows the history of Beit Hadassah in Hebron here? Beit Hadassah. 10 families asked for permission to celebrate Pesach in liberated Hebron. They were going to be there for 8 days. Pesach ended. They got permission. 8 days they celebrated. The first Jews to celebrate there since the Jews were massacred and expelled back in the 20s and the 30s. After 8 days, the army came to take them out. They wouldn't leave. We're here for good. We liberated our ancestral city of Hebron, the first capital of the Jewish people by King David. No way are we leaving. We're back. And only after negotiations with the government, all the men left, and the 10 women stayed. Do you know how long they stayed in Beit Hadassah alone without their husbands? A year. A year. 10 tzadkaniot saved Hebron to bring about, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but because after a year, finally they came to the agreement with the government to build Kiryat Arba. It's only because of those 10 women away from their husbands for a year that we now have close to over 500,000 Jews living in Judea and Samaria. We didn't wait for the government. And that's how I know we're going to have 21 and even more Jewish communities rebuilt in Gaza. Not because of Trump's 20-point plan, which is already in the garbage, because Hamas is killing us, trying to kill us every single day. There's no ceasefire. There's no Kushner-Witkoff big plan of high-risers. It's all Baba Misa. It's all going to fail because it doesn't take into consideration reality. They ignore our enemy. They ignore the spiritual battle. And we're not going to wait for the government to decide, but every day or every week or every month we're going to have innocent Jews running into Gaza and trying to put up new communities. And guess what? The government's going to send the army in to throw us out. And then you're going to see the headlines in the Jewish media. Oh my God, fanatic Jews trying to rebuild in Gaza, endangering Israeli settlers, endangering peace of the world, making the Trump administration the closest friend we ever had in history, upset at us, ruining Israel's geopolitical stance in the world. Those are going to be the headlines. But guess what? We're going to rebuild in Gaza because of those people who every time are going to keep on doing it, even though they're going to continuously be thrown off. And now let me end with this, because this is how you really know the change is happening, bringing it all together. You all familiar with the Six-Day War. I don't have to go into the total miracles of the Six-Day War. You all know the Yom Kippur War. I don't have to go into all the miracles of the Yom Kippur War. We were supposed to be annihilated in the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. So it's only because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we survived both of those wars. Every war, right? 1948, of course, as well, right? Until today, until this war, think with me for a second. What has the narrative been in the Jewish Zionist world? Why did we won all these wars? It was because of Ben Gurion, 48, 67, because of Moshe Dayan. It's all focused on the human.
leaders, military leaders, there was no attention whatsoever to the true savior of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? In all of the wars. And then you have today, and the missiles to miracles that I just explained to you today, and the state of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael today, not everybody and not in the headlines, but on the ground, with the youth, with the strengthening of keeping Shabbat by different people, by the tzitzit, by the slichot, by lighting Friday night candles. That's because everyone knows now, it's not because of any human. As we say in Israel, the asimon finally has fallen. It's because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how I know Am Yisrael is waking up and realizing we are in Geula times. Where are our rabbis? Where are our educators? Where are our Jewish organizations, including the Orthodox one? Not just mentioning this once in a while, pushing this out every single day to inspire us, our children, and our grandchildren to understand the miraculous times we are living in. Well, that's the voice I provide every day via the Pulse of Israel. To try to save as many lives as possible. I want to reach the youth directly. I want to reach the university students directly. It takes a lot of money. I want to reach every single Jew, and I know even when I reach parents and grandparents, that helps, because via the grandparents and parents, it trickles down. But we definitely need help. There's so many Jews to save, and there's such an unbelievable, inspiring story to share. And it had to be shared years ago. We're way behind the 8 ball here. We're way behind. The spiritual battle, the evil, anyone who knows Kabbalah, spirituality stuff, we're taught. Whenever the good comes up, guess what's right behind it? The evil's right there to blot out the good. We are a force of good. We are the light. The Jewish state of Israel today is the biggest light. And we have a lot of work to do to make it even better. We have a lot of evil within, external and internal, that we have to deal with, because it's a spiritual battle. Again, going into Jewish history, whenever the Jewish community was strong, were there never Jews trying to hurt the Jewish community? We always had. Always. My grandfather, Allah Shalom, David Hollander, always used to ask me, Avi, why are they doing this? Why are they destroying this community? Why do they do this? Why this government decision? Why this legal decision? I'm like, Saba, throughout Jewish history, there have always been Jews who tried to do bad things to fellow Jews. Because when the good, when the proud Jewish spirit rises, there are always those Jews who just want to assimilate. They just want to hide under a rock. They don't want to be treated differently. So, who's their biggest enemy? And I'm not saying this. There are plenty of Israelis today. I won't say plenty, but definitely in high positions in the media who've said outright, I can find you the quotes, that the right-wing religious public in Israel, they're more dangerous than Hamas. You heard this in the judicial reform process. You heard this during the war. They've said it. It's out there. Because it's a spiritual battle. They know. They don't want Israel to be a proud Jewish country. And they see it is becoming a proud Jewish country because we're the ones having the kids. And Israel is changing. We still have a long way to go. A lot of changes. But guess what? You know how we're going to make the changes quicker? If people like you come home. If people like you have your children come home. Have your grandchildren come home. And if anything, I'll leave you with this comment. One grandmother on Friday who listened to my talk came up to me afterwards and she said, Avi, all my grandchildren rely on me to help pay for their college tuitions. I'm not helping any of them unless they go to university in Israel. Well, why throw the hundreds of thousands of dollars to the toilet, where instead of your children being able to focus on studying, they have to focus on standing up for their Jewish identity without even a life vest to help them. Send them to Israel where the air is Jewish, where every holiday is a Jewish holiday, where they're stepping history, where they're living the Jewish identity, where they're surrounded by this. And they can also learn. and much cheaper, and you could use that money that you saved to buy your first property, or second property, or third property in Israel. For you, for your children, for your grandchildren. Because the future of Am Yisrael is in Eretz Yisrael. And I just want to help people see what's really going on, see the spiritual battle, what's going on, and help me save as many Jews that we can. So anyone who's able to help, large donations are always great. They want us something, monthly donations are even better. Helps me give the stability. We're a small organization. My brochure is there. We have our plan for 2026 out on the table. We're a small organization making a huge impact. Unfortunately, the organizations that are focused on the old narratives and fighting anti-Semitism are the ones getting the billions of dollars that are not helping. I don't need $1 billion. But monthly donations, 10, 15, 50, 100, 500, doesn't make a difference. If I want to give a one-time donation, anything will help. And very, very appreciative. Am Yisrael Chai. I wanted to give a present to Leonard for helping organize the event this morning. And I don't know how many people noticed, but I have a pin, and this is a pin of the Beit HaMikdash that we're going to rebuild. This is the awareness we have in Israel today. I don't know how many people have been in Israel lately, but you know there are signs on the roads to tell you where you're going, what city you're going to. There's a new sign popping up all over Israel at intersections. And the sign is red for a historic landmark, and the sign says, Har Beit Hashem, the Beit HaMikdash. Am Yisrael is coming alive. We are leading. Our youth are leading Am Yisrael today. Be a part of the miracle.
If you like our videos, subscribe and donate today.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.